Worm planted, Simone notifies everyone via the group message chat. Brandy clenches her jaw as her eyes glance over at the Union security personnel who remained on this side of the door. They all seem stoic as they wait near the door, declining to take any seats. But the tight tension between the two groups of Terrans is severely palpable. Knowing that the true point of no return has been reached, Brandy just waits for the Union people to react from the occurring political crisis. However, there was a fairly strong hope to hold on to. She thought after Devin managed to deactivate the Squilla drones that things would kick off. But if there was shit going down, then the door is doing a phenomenal job at silencing any of the potential chaotic ruckus. The same seems to be the case at this point in time. Whatever Thorn is doing with the current blocked comms also appears to keep the Union satisfied. As the personnel subtly check into their comms, they appear to be receiving something back that hides the truth of the situation. Out of all the operations she pulled with her found family, that relied on her complete and utter trust, never has she experienced such a heavy leap of faith. Outside the notifications of text, there's no way of knowing how things are going down. All she and the rest of the gang can do is wait and watch the silent door, like an audience awaiting the results of some twisted magician's magic trick. The President twitches in reflex to pull her hand away from Simone's, but the redhead holds her grip tight, as though combating the very physics of the universe to keep the other woman in place. You have my word you'll be all right, for as much as that's worth to you. If my intent was to kill or hurt you, I wouldn't have gone through all this trouble, Simone says, in a genuine but firm voice. Bonau's eyes twitch down to her shoulder, as a deeply disturbing sensation swiftly shoots through her arm and up to her neck. She can feel the corkscrew around to the base of her head. Although her composure was impressive for someone being subjected to an ancient, zombifying brain worm fresh from a secret lab, her reaction is enough to cause her guards to rush up and forcefully separate the President. Although Simone still wants to keep the President close, she doesn't fight back, as two security tackle and restrain her down to the floor. Risking more conflict at this moment is the last thing this ever-growing political shitshow needs. The President is looked over, and after a medkit is swiftly presented, they begin preparation to counteract any detected toxins or invasive malicious nanomachines. But their speedy efforts are far too late to achieve a thing, as Vermis connects into the President's brain before they can apply a bandage to the lightly bleeding entry wound. Now genuinely fearful for her life, Bonau opens her mouth to inform her security that something was directly influencing her brain. But no words are released, as Vermis assumes more and more control over the President's bodily functions. Do not fight us. There is no point, as you'd only bring pain to yourself in these moments, Vermis informs, as they hijack the woman's inner dialogue. What is this? Who are you? Bonau internally demands, as the sensation of the world around her starts to disappear in a fog outside of her consciousness. An old enemy, Vermis responds, before in an instant injecting the knowledge of itself and its history of experimental suffering. It includes and pointedly drags along long-dead faces of Terrans, hidden away in secretive labs performing many experiments themselves. Taken aback by this almost otherworldly experience of an entity effectively downloading such information so easily and understandably. That, I haven't been aware of your existence or previous treatment under my people, on my honor. That government no longer exists, or those organizations to my knowledge. But if your intention is for reparations, we can Bonau attempts to start the conversation before being forcibly silenced. You tell the truth, but that is not the reason we are here. We are going to determine if it will be necessary to dismantle your consciousness and assume direct control. You may be instrumental in our plans, but you don't have to be in one piece. Masquerading in your form would be more than suitable, if not the preferred option, Vermis informs, rooting itself even deeper into Bernal's mind like an overriding virus. Staving off sheer panic, the President keeps it together as flashes of time she had to face things that felt just as terrifying crossed her conscious memory. Like automatic reflections of emotional states that partially molded her over her lifetime, such as giving a graduation speech or meeting a non-Terran for the first time at the age of 10. Each and every time, she managed to swallow that fear and face the music with grace. This is no different. Then why have you not already done so? She asked directly. 2 reasons. Vermis immediately responds as though seeing the question before it's even presented. Simone Thatch made us declare an oath that we wouldn't if you were not aligned with our mutual enemies. The whole saga of how Simone Thatch became an ally to this hive mind courses through Burnow's mind, and the Vermis wishes to persist forward in peace. Risking open war with Terrans is not conducive to that goal. However, we will do what must be done, and your responses to the information I give you will determine that fate. Understood. Very well. I see I have little choice, but if that is how we proceed, then proceed we will. Burnow replies, knowing this now falls somewhere under incredibly serious and sensitive political relations. Am I free to make inquiries? It is not possible for us to be distracted from our task, but you may, Vermis grunts, alluding to his own imperceivable massive span of consciousness. Why do this? Was there not some other way to make contact with me? One that would be more amicable? The woman asks. Perhaps, but in such a case your needless concept and practice of time-wasting bureaucracy would have been too much of a factor. Action must be made now, and time is not an ally in what is coming. Firstly, your union is anything but. Your own Admiral Harkon is spearheading a movement to distract and compromise your people. With that, all of Simone's experiences and knowledge with the Children of Gaia, the Admiral, and his umbrella secret organization are directly relived through the President's brain. As this occurred, Vermis combed through Bernal's already existing memories for anything related to such information. All it finds are general concerned political gossips around the Admiral, as any ethics investigations into the man stall or go nowhere. Meaning he was hiding something, and hiding it well. Yet he also performed his duty as an Admiral to the letter, if not beyond it. Bernal had only remote discourse with the man on official Union business, aside from a single occurrence while attending a governmental function. She only exchanged a few small-talk words with him, while having the gut feeling that they as people would not mix in a normal social setting. Additionally, knowledge of the Children of Gaia is present. Their direct involvement with the Gratwell's invasion is all but confirmed to her in the Union. Upon investigating, the Union found troubling indications of potential ties to several minor and mid-tier political figures, but the full extent of which is yet to be uncovered. That traitorous scumbag! Bernal manages to respond as she comes to, as the crimes of such a high figure in the Union burns in her mental corner of rage. But why? Is it an attempt at a coup? Even as an admiral, he has no hope of achieving such a thing. There are too many measures in place. Not wanting to give the President too much to mentally chew on at once, Vermis is yet to give certain, even more concerning details. After a moment, it moves on to provide an answer. Not a coup, a conquering, for he will not be the one to inherit true power. He'd achieve to be an enforcer at best. No, Harkon is but a tool for something much more looming and powerful. Prepare yourself, for you are about to carry a weight on your shoulders and heart. This is when you are judged. If you fail to meet our expectations, you will experience no pain, no strife, no awareness, and an effective death without knowledge of even happening, it warns. If her mind was still connected to the operation of her jaw, she would be grinding her teeth in face of all that. I appreciate the warning, and giving me a fair chance, she never suggests. The Manarians. Everything that Simone currently knows, has read about, and even what parts of what's accessible from Shara, is injected into the President's brain. Their grand plan, the hundreds of thousands of years of their secretive galactic involvement, the encoding, their insurmountable might, and their direct influences over the Kali King and Harkon's forces. The sense of doom sinks into Bernal's heart. She doesn't want to believe it, and parts of her mind try to convince her that it's not true. But it's not enough to induce denial. It's only natural for the Terran mind to want to reject such a reality. Many would, in fact. Better to live in ignorant bliss and all that. But Bernal has always been a bit of a realist. An optimistic, if not constantly frustrated, realist. She doesn't know how long it takes for her to process, but by the end she is taken by a grim yet neutral calmness. I can't lie, so I won't. Against such odds, I can't blame someone for preferring premature surrender to galactic-wide war. Hell, I couldn't hold it against entire nations to do so. Fight and die by astronomical numbers to be a highly unlikely victory, or be conquered, yet allowing the vast majority to live. I don't envy anyone placed in that position to choose, she thinks. What matters in this moment is your choice, Vermis reminds. Bernal has to take a moment to answer, not to decide her already made-up mind, but to find the words to convey herself. This day has not gone where I expected, or where I would ever wish it to go. To not sugarcoat it, this is a living nightmare. Many of Terran's stories and media feature a great leader in my position, one that rallies, commands, and leads against the evil forces. But I'm not a fiction. This is real, and I am what my people have in this very real reality. I'm a person with tangible flaws and shortcomings. If I was a character in those stories, they would be torn apart by critics. I know there are most likely thousands upon thousands of others more suitable than me in such a grand turn of galactic events. Yet it's me here. I've been hoping to avoid war, but now find myself at the precipice of the largest one the stars may ever see. It is just as terrifying as humbling. And I must admit, there's a small, but larger than I would like, part of me that wishes for you to render me free of this monumental responsibility. But I will never concede to such. I am profoundly afraid, but I am no coward. The people of the Union elected me to bear this duty, and to carry it out for as long as they deem it necessary. Some will no doubt question whether I can be up for the task, but it's my job to serve to my fullest. I see the importance of what you, Thatch, and the Kali Princess had to do to make this happen. Despite this incident being an attack and threat to my life, I hold no ill will towards any of you involved. I wish it never happened in the first place, but we all must receive the bad news as it comes, no matter the scale, and face it. So I will do everything in my power to purge the Union of Harkon's influence, and work with Chocolate Mortaz towards protecting the galaxy. I don't think I need to promise, as you no doubt can see my intentions. Vermis is silent for a moment, as it seeps an even deeper hold on Bernal's mind, far from reassuring her of a positive outcome. No matter how convicted you are, there is always doubt. But we see that you already have come up with plans, courses to take to commit to the cause. Admirable. But why leave it to you when we take up the mantle ourselves? Use all your knowledge, then carry out how you would, only better, it points out. Unfazed, but now mentally straightens out her posture. As I've said, I was elected president to lead my people, not you. If we are to face such an enemy, then we stand as we will. You are another people deciding their path forward, as you said. You have shown me what the Manarians did to you, and what you accepted from Thatch's advice. Manarians would want to use you as a tool. Do you wish to reflect them by using me as some sort of corpse puppet to wield the might of the entire Union? It may be for the greater good in your mind, but if you actually wish to exist in peace, then we need to work together, without spurning reasons for future conflict between us. I have many scanners on me at all times, and have medical check-ins often. You may be able to hide yourself well enough, but you can just as likely be caught. Let's not risk that, and move forward with dignity and respect. What future can we fight for and achieve, if we do it without a strong foundation to stand on? She informs. Again, Vermis is quiet, but also doesn't act, as it debates within itself. The majority agrees with your argument, but the entirety is not yet convinced. We have one final question for you to answer before we finally commit to our choice, it determines. Then I'm ready to hear it, Bernal replies without hesitation. Miki and Nodrin stand between the Union guards and the non-Terran ambassadors as tensions skyrocket. More than once a trigger is almost pulled at the Calais growling dog as demands are made but not met. The Grat duo are outnumbered but unflinching in the face of the commanding Terrans. Playing it out as defensively as possible, they knew that time needs to be bought without it coming to violence, or surrendering for that matter. Simone doesn't put up a fight, but Miki and Nodrin carry out their tasks on making sure the Union don't try to leave the room, striking a thin balance of maintaining as a potential threat without being a proactive one. Thankfully, the Union security are aware that attacking them first will be seen as a near guarantee that the existing already complicated relations between the Union and Central would irrecoverably plummet. But on the other hand, the safety of the President took precedence, and being in a space with unagreeable armed individuals didn't help their efforts. In the time of 30 standard seconds, this all occurs, including the discourse between the two mind-melded. It felt quite a bit longer to the President, but Vermis connected and brought the woman to a faster mental processing speed. The glazed-over eyes of the President blinked back into consciousness as things started to further escalate between the Grat and Terrans. She looked down to see a restrained Simone, not resisting but staring directly at the Calais princess. Reaching up as though to scratch an itch, Bernal puts her hand to the back of her neck to catch what burrows out and discreetly flicks it into a nearby potted plant. "Stand down!" she roars, over the other shouting Terrans. Almost shocked by this, her security glances back at her briefly, before refocusing on the armed Grat. "Madam President," her lead warily says in deep caution. "I order you to stand down. Now," she commands, her impactful voice feeling as though it could have shaken the ground itself. Some more hesitant than others, all the Terrans lower their weapons and back away from the others. "And her, Madam President?" the lead asks while nodding at Simone. "Release her," Bernal orders, in a tone more fitting for a calmer atmosphere. "She surprised me, is all, but it wasn't deceitful. I'm fine, truly. I'll take all the screenings and scans required to prove such," she assures, before looking at the ambassador. "Afterwards, I think to resume these talks without the tense security detail would be most productive, as this just turned into a Class 11 confidentiality scenario." Lee widened his eyes in surprise, but gave an uncertain nod. "With the other ambassadors present?" he asks for clarification. "Yes. Protective Service, as a matter of national security, you are not to share what occurred here. Doing so outside approved and cleared individuals will have grave consequences, as you know," Bernal replies, before looking at the Skrilla and Grat ambassadors behind the two armed Grat. "As poorly as this has gone so far, may we please continue our talks? The situation was misunderstood, but I hope we can clear the air and resume." "Yes, that is agreeable," a tremendously relieved Jivan responded, as he patted the shoulders of Miki and Nodrin. "Put away your weapons," he orders. Nodding, the duo do so, hiding their giddy excitement to the best of their abilities. However, their tightly weaving towels is a dead giveaway of their jubilation. "I'm happy that calmer spirits graced us," Nodrin speaks in a chittering sigh. "I am lost, but I understand these things must happen from time to time," Cass speaks up, before eyeing their defunct security drones. Simone is released and allowed to stand back up. She gives her fiancé a firm nod before turning to face Bernal. "Thank you. I hope you understand why this all happened," she says. The President crosses her arms, clearly wanting to answer a certain way, but decides against it for now. "Will it be possible to repair this door in a timely fashion?" she inquires instead. "Of course, one moment," Simone nods, before activating her comm to speak directly to Sonla. Mission complete. Fix the doors, she says.
Thank the gods of the flesh. I'm cramping real bad here. But yeah, ouchie, fuck. There. Not pretty, but hot fixed. Just, no one stand in the doorway when it closes. I think I've broken a few safety precautions to do all this. Pay for an actual repair person isn't coming out of my payment, right?
Sonla says in a clearly strained voice. Course not, thank you. You may return to your team partner. Simone replies, as she suppressed a chuckle that sneaks up on her from her chest, feeling overjoyed before her brain does.
Aye aye, calling backwards to the old Terran guy. Gotta get that meat. Hehehe.
Sonla acknowledges, before thinking on her words for a few seconds.
Oh, wait, not from him. I mean, later, as a celebration for the completed job. And not the euphemism of meat, I mean meat. Well, unless it's a handsome Zartuk boyfriend. If I can have that instead of the agreed payment, I'll take it. Or any big-scaled men, really, because apes are gross by comparison. No offense.
Closing her eyes, Simone resists the urge to shake her head in amusement, and instead cut the call. Doors fixed, she informs. But now nods in gratitude, as a guard slightly begrudgingly reports that the President passed all scans and blood tests. All Union security and staff leave this room. Only Ambassador Lee and I will remain, she ordered. Although there's a clear heavy unease among them, they abide by the President's command. As the door opens at half the speed it did before breaking, Simone waves over Bree, and once she approaches, they exchange a deep hug. Thank you for believing me. You've probably just saved more people than you can imagine. You're our fucking hero, Bree, Simone whispered into her friend's shoulder. Not sure if I believe that, but you were always not the best liar. Hence why I stepped away from you and Sam when I did. I hope we're good now and that our kids meet someday soon, Bree responds in kind. Simone squeezes her friend tighter for a moment. Course we are, and that will happen, mark my words, the redhead promises, as she pulls away and lets Bree step back towards the door. Troy, Bree and Devon all stare intently at the Union members leaving while not accompanied by their leadership, having received a text from Chuck saying that the operation was a very close call, but a success nonetheless. With a press of a button, Devon reactivates the Cass's drones, which hover off the floor and assume position by the Skrilla as though nothing had happened. How curious. I was just starting to like the idea of not being monitored, Cass admits, as he moves back to his seat, taking this all in stride. Well, this room will still be secure of in-and-out signals that aren't ours, Simone comments, as she walks up to Chuck and gives her a quick mutual side hug, as the princess is clearly eager to focus on the matter at hand, now that they have made it this far. Once the doors seal behind those taking leave, Chuck takes her seat directly across from where Bernal is. Madam President, I know you must be considering a lot of things at the moment, but I hope you mind me asking if you're in favour of a proposed alliance between the nations present, and perhaps including those who have yet to arrive, the princess inquires. I believe I am, Bernal answers, to the immediate concern of Ambassador Lee. Madam, I don't understand. What about what just happened changed your mind? He questioned, in equal parts suspicious and worried. The President eyed the plant by the door for a moment before shaking her head. She didn't want the ambassador to experience what she did, or risk giving Vermis another appealing temptation. You saw that all my scans and blood work were cleared, she says, to reinforce that fact, before standing up, walking to the plant and retrieving what she flicked. Of course, Lee replies quickly, unsure as to what the President was doing. I was introduced to a sapient hive mind species, one that isn't officially recognized by Central. They seem to only converse through a connection of the mind, and, as disturbing as it may be, this one found its way to my mind. Quite literally, she reveals, as she briefly holds the worm out for the man to view in confused disgust. It apparently has the ability to transfer memories and information. It showed me everything I needed to learn firsthand. What Simone said was all correct. These Menarians are a very real threat to the entire galaxy. We have to commence broad action. Right, he says cautiously. And how can you know it hasn't for lack of a better term, brainwashed you to believe something you normally wouldn't, such as an impending insurmountable enemy that would cause you to do things rashly. This also sounds like an astronomical breach of Union security.
Oh, it very much was. And you're not totally off base. I'll subject myself to a thorough medical evaluation before finalizing anything we may discuss today. But in the meantime, Miss Thatch, I understand you have a significant amount of evidence to what I've just seen firsthand. Please, would you share copies of what you're willing to share to the ambassador here? Bernal says, with a nod to the redhead.
Of course. There's a lot to go through, though, Simone agrees, as she sends over everything they've uncovered on the ancient Minarian lab station, and all the data Brom's forces have collected regarding Harkon's forces that attacked the Grat homeworld. Are we going to be privy to this information as well? I'd very much like to see while in such a private setting, Kaz requests.
Chuck?
Simone asks the Caliph for permission.
For the moment, while we plan on sharing and addressing this with Central, I must ask for your discretion of this information if we are to share it with you.
The princess responds to the Squilla and Grat directly. You'll have my discretion, Kaz agrees.
And you know you'll have mine, Jeevan assures.
Finding this suitable enough, Chuck turns to Simone.
We've come this far. Share it, she grants.
After going through most of it, and explaining the known details, the meeting table finds itself in a heavy duration of silence. Before it can drag on for too long, but now looks to Ambassador Lee.
What are you thinking, Ambassador? She inquires.
Howard Lee closes his eyes and grimaces. That, once again, Terrans will be the galaxy's warhounds, but this time, we charge into a slaughter, while everyone else watches only to surrender after the Terrans fall, he answers honestly, before rubbing between his eyes.
That is precisely why we are here, to unite the stars, to give ourselves the best chance to buy time. The Minarians may want to invade a more stable galaxy. Remember, they don't want to wipe the people out, they want to rule them. They've waited this long, they can willingly wait longer for another opportunity in the hopefully distant future, which may be even better equipped to face them due to our efforts. That is how we win this, Chuck asserts.
And if they invade anyway? Cultures shift and change. Their perception of their honor and worthiness may very well be something more acceptable to losses of war, Lee counters.
Then we face them, united. Regardless of what the Minarians do, this is our best course of action. A divided galaxy will fall. A united galaxy may probably fall. I don't know about you, Ambassador, but I take the probably over will without question. Because that is a chance we otherwise wouldn't have, Chuck argues.
The Terran ambassador leans back in his chair, finding himself agreeing with the Cali's points.
The Grat will stand with the Terrans when they come, Jeevan speaks up,
their tone being one of conviction.
We protect our community, and will not bow to any invaders without a fight. What say you, Ambassador Kaz?
Kaz sits in silence for a moment before responding. The Squilla have only recently tasted what true freedom is. We wish to keep it, and we refuse for another to come take it from us, he says. We will be at the Star's defense as well. The mood of the room lifts a bit, as a sense of interspecies camaraderie starts to swell, but it only lasts so long before Chuck receives a notification.
The ambassadors for the Zartuk, Wataf and Mick are all here and ready, she updates the room. Shall I invite them into these talks?